Not good morning. Not good evening. Oh, yeah, good evening. Can we say that? Yeah, good evening. How is everybody? How are you all? Okay, so we've been doing a lot of note naming and looking at note values and all that. So we're going a bit at a time, right? We're adding stuff on. So slowly, we're getting there. We're learning a bit more. Of course, this is basic theory, right? The more we go on, the harder it's going to get. But I know a lot of you have already seen what we're doing, what we're covering, but that's okay. It's just that we need a starting point, and then the more we move ahead, the more we learn, and hopefully, the point is to try to see if we can get to a place where it's you're learning something, right? And sometimes just also understanding why things, you see it all the time, but you just don't know why it's that way. So hopefully going through it's going to help you understand a little bit more what you're seeing and why we're doing it this way. Okay, so let me pull up my shared document so that you see what we're going to be working on. And this is always a spin-off of what we've done before. So we're going to go from that. So here we go. Okay, so you can see this. So tonight we're going to start off with rest values, okay? So we've definitely done note values, or at least a few note values. So tonight we're going to start off with rest values. So times in the music where there is no sound, where you're not playing, there's nothing, happening. But these times, okay, these spaces still have a predetermined value. You still have to know that you can't just stop forever or you can't, make it too short. So there's actually, just like the notes, they have values as well, the rests. So the first rest we have here is the quarter rest, quarter note, right? Same value, one beat. And that's what's cool in English is that they both have the same name. In French, that's not the case. So the quarter note, for example, in French, we call it la noire. And then the quarter rest, we call it soupir. It was like totally unrelated. So it's harder to retain. But in English, it's actually pretty easy. Quarter note, quarter rest, both equal one beat. Half note, half rest. So the half rest is two beats, and the whole rest is four beats or a full measure, full bar. Okay? Now, I have a lot of students that confuse these two here, the rectangles, right? Like how am I going to remember that one is right side up and one's upside down? How do I remember that? So I have a little bit of a trick for that. Okay. So if we want to give a weight to each one of these rests, well, we know that one is a lot smaller than four, for example. So what I tell my students often is like, oh, well, it's easy. The quarter rest resembles a little bit of like a fluffy feather. So it's very light, one beat. The half rest is lighter than the whole rest, so it floats on the line. Whereas the whole rest is a lot heavier, it's bigger, so it sinks under the line. Now, in reality, the rest itself does not have the line. It's really just a rectangle. But one of them sits on the line and the other one just falls below the line. Okay, so they're always written this way, but the line is not actually part of the rest. Okay, it's really just the rectangle, and then where it's placed on the staff. Sorry, I'm getting off a bit of a bronchitis, so hopefully I can get through this class without coughing like I did. My brain's out in the last class. Okay, so let's go with the first line. So we've done these in the past by clapping through them. So let's do the same thing. Okay, you can do la la las. You're all muted, so we won't hear you. We'll see you moving. So you can go ahead and just do la la la, or you can clap your hands and do them and hold them together if the notes are longer, and then we'll see how that goes. So let's try this out after four beats. Okay, so we're going to count up to four and we're going to get that started. So 1, 2, 3, 4. La, la, sh, la, 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 sh, La. So dotted quarter note was 3 beats, and the whole note is 4 beats. So that's why those were a little bit longer. So you can also tap along with your foot. So that would help to, kind of keep that beat going if you want. Okay. Let's give a try to the second line. So second line, here we go. So this one, we're only going to count up to 3 before we start. So in each bar, we have 3 beats because in the time signature, which is those numbers that are at the beginning, the 3 is the top number. So that's the one that determines how many beats we have in each measure. So here it's a 3. So in each of these boxes, these bars that we call measures, we're going to have only 3 beats. So we're going to count up to 3 and let's get started. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. La, 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 la. 1, 2, 3. Wah. I like that. So this whole measure didn't have any sound. Now, a bit of a controversy. This whole rest can be used to represent the whole measure, but we do see some methods that will actually do a dotted half rest, just like a dotted half note. So it's possible to see that, okay? So a half rest with a dot, which would be the same thing as a dotted note, a dotted half note, which equals 3. Okay, so both are correct. We do see both. Let's try the third line. Here we go with the third line. So in the third line, the top number is a 2. So that means that we're going to count to 2 before we start, and that each section, each bar, each measure, so bar or measure is the proper word, is going to have 2 beats. So half note is 2 beats, quarter note is 1, quarter rest is 1, 1, 2, half rest 1, 2, and half note 1, 2. So let's give that a try. 1, 2. La, la, sh, la, la, sh, sh, la. Got that? Makes sense? Let's try the bottom line, sorry. So bottom line, the top number is a 4. So we're going to have 4 beats in each measure. So let's review again. Half note is 2. Quarter note is 1. The quarter rest is 1. So 2 plus 1 plus 1, we've got 4. Half note is 2. Half rest is 2. 2 plus 2 makes 4. 1. And then the dotted half note is 3. So 3 plus 1, we've got our 4. And our whole note, which is 4. So here we go. Let's go after 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. La, la, sh, la, sh, sh, la, la, la. Okay? So it's a lot nicer if I do it on an instrument, but anyways, as long as we get what we're doing. So, okay, so those are going to be the new symbols that we're bringing in to class this week, the rests. Okay, there are others, and we're going to see them later on, okay, but we'll get to them. So notes on the staff and stem direction. So last class we worked on the notes in the staff, and we were able to determine their names and how to figure out their names. We will review that a little bit later on in class, but what I want to focus on right now is the stems, okay, the direction of the stems. So if you look here, I've got the notes going up. These are all whole notes. They don't have stems, so it doesn't really matter what you do. As long as you're putting them on there, that's fine. Now, some of the methods that we see, some books that we see, some learning books, especially the early aged piano books, the treble clef notes will always have the notes with the stem going up. And when the stem goes up, it's on the right side of the note. And then when we're doing the lower notes for the left hand in the bass clef, the notes would be upside down with the stem on the left side. Okay? Now, is that really the way it works? Not really. Okay, the clef does not necessarily determine the stem direction, but we do see it in some method books, okay, at least for beginners. But that's not how it works, okay? The direction of the stem is determined by the placement of the note head on the staff. So if we've got our staff here, so we review, the staff always has 5 lines. On the third line of the staff, that's the important line that we need to look at when we're figuring out the direction of the stem. So the third line of the staff is the referral point. So here you've got the third line. Notes that are going to be placed under the third line will have their stem going up. And when the stem goes up, it's always on the right side of the stem, a little bit like the letter D. So here you've got, just to remember so that you know what we're talking about, we've got the head of the note and the stem of the note. So we're talking about the stem here. So if the notes are below that third line, the stem is going to go upwards and it's going to be on the right. So like this. Okay, so I colored in that third line so it's easier to see. So the notes are going to look like the letter D, like in dad, okay? It will never look like the letter B. Never. It just doesn't happen. So this rule applies to most note values that have stems, like quarter notes, half notes, dotted half notes, and then a few other notes that we're going to see, like eighth notes or 16th notes. However, there will be exceptions to this rule, but we're going to see that at another time. So basics, this is the way we figure out which direction the stems are. So now your turn. If you've got a staff paper in front of you, okay, a sheet, even a blank sheet of paper, draw a staff if you don't have one that's already drawn out. And then I just want you to find that third line and then practice drawing some notes under that third line that would have a stem. So either quarter notes, half notes, dotted half notes, and just practice drawing your stem. Make sure that the note heads are not too big or not too small for the stem, for the staff, right? So we've already seen that, right? We want to make sure that the head doesn't cross over any lines. If it's placed on the line, then the head goes really in the middle and it's not touching any other lines. And if it's between 2 lines, it doesn't surpass, on either side. So it's really in between. So watch out for your note heads so that they're not too big or not too small. And then place the stems on the right side to make sure, and with the proper direction. Now, sometimes I also have students that ask, how do I determine how tall I'm going to make that stem? And generally, you're going to make it about 3 spaces tall. About 3 spaces tall. So if I'm going to go up, I'm going to have the F here. I'm going to just go a little bit past. But that when you're drawing freehand, the notes, like when you're writing them out, that's not so important. It's not so it's not a big deal, as long as you don't make them mini short or like super long that it looks silly. I mean, nobody's actually going to look at that. What's really important is the head and the direction and which side you're putting it on. So the length is not super important. So draw a couple of those. And then if you've got it done and you're willing to share, I'm willing to look at it. And if not, then that's fine. You can just keep it for yourself. Yeah, that's it. You got it. That's it. That's exactly what it looks like. Okay, cool. And the clearer you make your notes, then the easier it is for you to go back to those notes after and understand what you've written, right? A lot of chicken scratching out there from musicians. So, the freehand's a little bit like when doctors, write out your prescription and you don't understand, right? So it's a little bit the same thing with our note writing. We want to make sure that people can understand what we've written, or that we ourselves can go back and understand what we've written. Okay, cool. So if you've gotten that done, good. Let's go on. So Now the opposite, okay? If the notes that we want to write or that we're reading are placed above the third line, then the stems are going to be going down, and automatically when the stems go down, they go on the left side of the head of the note. And this is what they would look like. So the stem's on the left, and it's going downwards. So a little bit like the letter P. We do not have the letter Q. Okay, your notes shouldn't look like the letter Q. So no B's and no Q's, but look a little bit like a D or a P, then you're on the right track. So your turn, same thing. Same thing that you did before, but this time make your notes above the third line. So find the third line, and then again, draw quarter notes, half notes, dotted half notes, draw them above. And again, special attention to your note heads. Make sure they're not too big, not too small. With your note heads with the stems on the proper side. Nicolette, are you having popcorn? Are you taking this like a movie? Huh? Jeez. Next time I'm going to put my makeup on so I'm more colorful to look at. Huh? Okay. Good. So you've got all your work done. Perfect. Okay. So we're good. Now, some people are going to say, okay, fine. We've done notes above the line. We've done notes below the line. What about the notes on the line? Well, if we're going to do a note on the third line, the notes that are on the third line of the staff can have their stems either going down or going up. However, the direction of the stem is usually mostly determined by what the other notes surrounding them are. A little spelling mistake there. I'm going to go back and fix that. Okay, so if all of the notes that are around that specific note have their stems going up because they're lower, then that note will usually have its stem going up as well. But if all the other notes around them are higher notes, then that one will also have its stem going down. But most often, the stem will be down on this note. Most often. But just so you know, both are correct. Okay, both are correct. There's no right or wrong way, but most often we will see it with the stem going down. Okay, so just so you know that. Okay, now let's try to put that together. So let's review that with what we saw last week when we were reading our not last week, sorry, before I left on vacation. So we had the note names that we looked at, okay? And we said that if we were in treble clef, and we looked at different ways of finding how to read our notes, we came to the conclusion that the notes that were on the lines were mi, sol, si, re, and fa. If you're doing solfège, if you're doing letter names, E, G, B, D, F. And we said that there were two ways of finding that. So if we were doing do, re, mi, fa, sol, we did it in French where we had a little, kind of like a little diddle that we would say, les lignes sont mi, sol, si, re, fa. Les lignes sont mi, sol, si, re, fa. The more we repeated it, the more we remember it, so that if we have to figure out where one of these notes is, let's say we're looking to figure out the fourth line note, well, then we're just going to go les lignes sont mi, sol, si, re. And then if we look, oh, there we go. We've got the right note. Okay. So that was one way of finding out. If you're doing letter names, well then, I'm sure you've heard this before, every good boy deserves fudge. And then that works perfectly. Every good boy deserves fudge. Okay, so that works, and that's an easy way to find your notes. The space notes in treble clef will spell the word face, F-A-C-E. Or in French, if you want to go with the French way, because you're doing solfège and you're doing the do ré mi way, well, the little sentence in French is fais-la dormir. Fais-la dormir, fa-la dormi. Fais-la dormir, fa-la dormi. Okay, and then that works. Okay, so those are two ways to finding the names of those notes. So now we know that in bass clef, the notes are not in the same place. Okay, so if we're looking to do those two methods, well, in the French way of doing it, the mi, we would say it in our heads, and then we would go and add, and because we're missing one because we started in our head, then we would add the la. So le, ling, son, mi, sol, si, re, fa, la. Le, ling, son, mi, sol, si, re, fa, la. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. And if we want to do the EGBD, so every good boy deserves fudge always. The every, you don't place it. Good boy deserves fudge always. Okay, so the notes are not in the same place in treble clef and in bass clef. And the reason for that is because if you look at the clef itself, so the treble clef is also known as the G clef. So the G is right here on the second line, making the F all the way up on this last line or in this first space. Whereas the bass clef, which is known as the F clef, the F is on this, is where that big button is from the bass clef, or between these two dots, which is the fourth line. It was on the fifth line in treble clef, and here it's on the fourth line. So that's why the notes are not in the same spot. Okay, space notes in bass clef, again, if we do fais-la dormir, well, it's going to be fais-la dormir au sol, make her, put her to sleep on the floor. So fait, we're not going to place it. Fais-la dormir au sol. Fais-la dormir sol. Fais-la dormir au sol. Fais-la dormir sol. And the word would be face plus G. So, come up with a bunch of, G adjectives. My face is always good. My face is always great. My face is always gorgeous. Of course, if you turn around and you go, my face is beautiful, then you've got a problem because that's not going to work, right? It has to be a G, not a B. So watch out for that. Okay, and then the F of the face, you wouldn't place it, and then you'd start off with the A, C, E, and G. Okay, so that's how that works. I am in theory class. That's okay. Okay. Do you have someone at... Okay. Yeah, that's okay, Mihaela. Okay, take care of yourself. Yeah. Okay, sorry. So here we go. This is going to be the homework. Now, to find this homework, okay, what we're going to do, what you're going to do is you're going to go into your student portal, okay, and it will be in the online resources. If you don't have access to the student portal, send us an email, info@lavalmusic.com, and we will resend it to you. It's been sent to you when you signed up. We did send it to you, but we will resend it. You may have lost it in your email. And then you go on the website, and there's a place that says Student Portal, and you click on there. You create your account, which is not hard. It's your email with your password, and you then have access to the online resources. Okay, so you go in the online resources. You're going to see a shared space folder. And the homework is, it's basically theory, November 1st, homework. Okay, maybe written in French though. Okay, And what I need you to do with this homework this week is you're going to add the stems to the following note heads. Remember that you have to use the third line as the reference point. And then once that's done, you're going to name the note. You can do the solfège, you can do the letter names, it doesn't matter, okay? But be careful, because you see you've got some treble clefs, and then you also have a bass clef. So a lot of students forget to check that when they're doing theory homework, okay? And then sometimes they end up with a bunch of mistakes because of it. So basically it's going to look like this, okay? You add the stem and you name it. Like I said, whether you use the solfège name or you use the letter name, doesn't matter, but that's what you're going to do. Okay, so are we good with that? Not too hard, is it? Not too complicated. Yeah, and that's it. That's our class for tonight. So hopefully you learned something. Huh? Hopefully you learned something. And if you didn't, stick in there, because we're going to keep learning more. Okay, but hopefully you did learn something. And yeah, if you have time to do the homework, get it done, because that's beneficial. That's how it's going to be, you're going to be able to do it. It's not up in the portal yet. I'm going to put it up within the next few minutes, okay? So you can go in there and do that. And if you want us to correct it, just bring it in and give it to your teacher, and your teacher, it'll be a pleasure for them to correct it and make sure that it's done properly. Okay. You're also going to notice in the portal, there's all kinds of stuff because people put things where, but you can go through the files one at a time. If they're there, they're shared with everybody. So they're free to, download or whatever. But you can go in there and you're going to see there's a lot of note naming exercises. So just download them and print them and, and practice with them. That's what they're there for. So, okay, all good? Great. Thanks for showing up, guys.